All right, welcome. We are about to dive into our tarot correspondences, and this week we are on the Empress. We have a card here. We're going to get started. I like to always start off by saying thank you for spending this time with me. If you have a couple hours, maybe 3, we're going to dive into this the Empress card and its correspondences. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. If you haven't already, please make sure that you like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. And we're going to dive in. I think first I'm going to begin with Z's Easy Tarot by Zsuzsanna Budapest. Now, if you're new to this tarot correspondence that we're doing, it's a study course. I am somewhat of a beginner in tarot, and so I decided to share my study, hopefully benefit somebody else who's new. If you are an adept, if you are highly skilled and advanced in the use of tarot, please comment, share what you know. If you see any mistakes or correct it, I pride myself on being the eternal student. It is I, the professor, although I remain the eternal student. So I have about a dozen books, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I got about 17 books that I use. I've been trying to use the same books over and over just to condense. Although on my own, I do go through other books in my library, but for the purposes of this study, I want to use the same books over and over. Hopefully encourage some of you to get these exact same books for your own uses and purposes. Now, before I do get started, yesterday I shared on YouTube, I essentially received the channel by going through these tarot cards. And the channel I received was dealing with the High Priestess card. And it helped me to understand that the goddess Cybele is still large and in charge. A lot of things we see going on today can be directly correlated to her worship and that aspect of that deity, that energetic archetype. What I want to say was, before I get started, is as you're doing your studies, you're researching, you're studying things like that, you will receive channels, for lack of a better word. These channels may come in terms of images, auditory sounds, maybe even smells. This goes back to things such as clairaudience, clairsentience, clairvoyance, et cetera, et cetera. So what you have to do is you have to follow that rabbit down its hole. So if an image pops in your mind, especially if it's not a personal image, a memory, something that you've experienced yourself, that can be considered a channel. That's why you have books and you research it and you get to the bottom of it. Sometimes it may be cryptic. It may not be so easy to define and track down, but it can be done. And that's the purpose of amassing a nice library, so you have multiple resources, because you may have one encyclopedia on gods and goddesses, ancient deities, whatever, but that one might not have the information you want. So you want to have multiple. 3 to 5 would be best. If you cannot afford the books, don't feel bad, nothing's wrong with you. Trust me, if you truly desire it, you will attain it. In the between time, you can use Google and PDFs. PDFs are easy to get. I'll tell you right now, there's one readily accessible. It's called pdfdrive.com. You type in the subject or an author or a title, and you will get the book. You download it. If you have access, print it out and make it a book. So having said that, let's get it underway. Z's Easy Tarot by Zsuzsanna E. Budapest, and she spells Zsuzsanna with a Z. Now, normally, I won't say that I've bashed this book or talked bad about it, but I don't like following other people's rituals. I like to create my own. But I can say that during the course of studies, I have appreciated this. Before I read it, let's give a brief recap because I'm diving straight in. So far, we've covered the fool, the magician, and the high priestess. We read the fool as the zero, aleph, that is spirit descending into matter, becoming denser. The fool is he is unconcerned as to the outcome of his journey, because for him, the destination of his journey, for him, it's the journey and not the destination. So, because he knows he's going to return from whence he came. The fact that the fool is placed number 0 and at the beginning of the deck, this is something that's highly debated. As a matter of fact, this book, she doesn't place the fool card at the beginning of the deck. She places it, I believe, like 21 or 22. So, having said that, we have the fool. After the fool, we have the magician, the magus. Now, the fool descends from Kether. The Hebrew letter is Aleph. Aleph is the breath of God, the breath that sparked life within man. The fool carries, he has a wand, which is or a staff, which is synonymous with light, fire. On the end of that, he has like a little knapsack, a little bag. On that bag, there is an eagle and the all-seeing eye. So within encompass, what he carries is knowledge, and it's in a class bag, so it's there for his perusement, for lack of a better word. It's available. He carries it. Another thing about the fool is he has the dog at his heel. The dog appears very tamed. That's showing his mastery over the material. He's tamed the wild elements. The fool's carrying a rose, which suggests that wherever he came from, it was cultured. And he took some of that culture with him. The next card will be the magician. The magician has above his head that figure 8, I believe it's called a lemniscate, that figure 8, that aurora borealis, and that is a sign of eternity as well as loops. The fool is associated with the Sephira hold, which is glory. And what else can I say about the magician? The magician encompasses the ability to work with the correspondent energies, which is why he has one hand pointing up, one hand pointing down, as above, so below. That infinity sign, that aurora borealis above his head, in certain cards, it is kind of camouflaged or masked within the locks of his hair. On the desk in front of the fool, you'll find the 4 elements, the 4 emblems of the 4 suits: fire, water, air, earth. Each of those elements correspond to Yod, He, Vav, He. And so you have to understand that Yod, He, Vav, He, although it's considered the name of God, it is actually a magical formula. And it was believed that mispronunciation of that name could result in the end of the universe, or correct pronunciation would make you the master of the universe. The magician card is associated with the Hebrew alphabet, the Hebrew letter of Beth. Beth represents houses, stability, construction, masonry, a master over building. Geometry is applied. Hold is also on the tree of life. It represents the apron. It is on the hermetic path. And I can recall at the moment off the top of my head. The next card would be the high priestess. Ashe to Sabel, Ashe to Juno, Ashe to Isis, Ashe to Ishtar, Ashe to Hera, Ashe to Rhea, Ashe to Diana. Just to give it up to those goddesses, because I had some of my most profound meditations and downloads and channels from that card thus far. That is a card associated with the moon and water, receptivity, reflection, polarity. The letter associated with it is Gimel. Gimel means camel. For those who aren't aware, a camel is actually a desert serpent, so it represents Kundalini. On the tree of life, it will be in the middle pillar, the pillar of equilibrium, the 13th path, which descends from Kether to Tiferet, which is showing the veil being pierced. The High Priestess card is indicative of Isis, in that behind her is a veil. On that veil are pomegranates and palms from the palm tree. The palm is alleged to be masculine. The pomegranates are feminine because it represents the exuberance of the seeds, represents fertility. But you see here we have a combination, a combining of both masculine and feminine. The High Priestess is known as the uniting intelligence because she's a uniter of opposites. So enclosed within that is a dichotomy, both good and bad. What else can I say about the High Priestess? She is the Magna Mater, the Great Mother, the Divine Mother. From her flows all waters, water being synonymous with knowledge. And then now we find ourselves at the Empress. So let's dive in. Z is easy to roll. So what she says about the Empress card is, this is the second aspect of the great goddess, the first being the High Priestess. Venus, Aphrodite, Lady of Plenty. We're gonna dive into the plenty because it's evident in the card. She never comes up empty-handed, enough to eat and boogie with. So this is where, this is along the path. Venus is along. Do that so I can... Okay, it's all good, but Venus is along the path of Chesed. And so from there, we know there's abundance and things of that nature. So that's why it said here, why Zsuzsanna Budapest said she never comes up empty-handed, enough to eat and boogie with. So you will experience bountifulness. She brings women consciousness, generosity, a sunny outlook, and good feelings. You finna warm your food up? Yeah, just warm it up. It's in the microwave? Okay. It's in there. What I would like you to do is get a water. Get you a water, okay, and get you a napkin so you're ready to eat, okay? Okay. All right. Can we get some water to the pool? We surely will. We surely will. So the next book we're going to dive in will be Philip Cooper's Teach Yourself to Roll, the Quick and Easy Way. So let's see what Philip, now this book is surprisingly brief in terms of his description of the suits. At some point during this study, because it's going to be 78 weeks, we're only on week 4. So at some point I'm going to read this entire book. Let's get to the good part. Major Arcana. Here we go. The Empress. The loving wife or mother. Success if the querent is a woman. Fruitfulness, abundance, birth. General description. An empress sitting upon a throne has a crown of 12 stars, wears a string of pearls around her neck. A shield which bears a symbol of Venus rests at the side of her throne. A field of corn ripens in front of her. She is the fruitful mother. She reigns with love and understanding. Okay, get your napkin. Now, what you have to realize is that when you read these books on the tarot, the Royal Road, a lot of times what's said is said in between the line. And that's encouraging you to get your cues and correspondences from the card itself. So here it says the loving wife or mother. Yeah, you good, bud. Isis is the archetypal aspect of this loving wife or mother. Amen. Nah, I mean, amen, bud. Where we at? success if the querent is a woman, fruitfulness, abundance, birth. Now, I would say this, that you don't want to assume that this card is strictly for women. We all have the three poles within us, just like we are all constructed of three pillars on the tree of life. So we all have a pillar of severity, a pillar of equilibrium, and a pillar of mercy within us. That feminine aspect is within us. So don't feel as though this is exclusive to women. And buddy, you can't do that while I'm studying. I know you're enjoying your food, but you can't do that, okay? All right. An empress sitting upon a throne has a crown of 12 stars. Well, we know for a fact 12 stars would be the 12 zodiac. And they rest upon her head. She wears a string of pearls around her neck. We're going to look up the significance of pearls, stars, and crowns in a moment. And also a shield, which bears a symbol of Venus, rests at the side of her throne. A field of corn ripens in front of her. She is the fruitful mother. She reigns with love and understanding. So just off top, we know the shield is designed to protect. So this is a protecting energy. You have the sign of Venus, which is actually green in color. So we have this creative aspect and this mothering aspect of the shield, which was, I believe, the shield originally came from the spade, which is why the shield is associated with earth. Spade being shovel, digging the earth. I could be wrong. Sometimes I kind of confuse my information, but I know this, before it's over, we'll get to the bottom of it. So what I'm going to do now is break out. First, we'll go to this book. This is J.E. Surlock's A Dictionary of Symbols, and we're going to look up these symbols that we've seen so far, which would be, let me take a look again. Well, the throne we know is Isis, because the Egyptian hieroglyph for Isis was the throne, right? Let's look up stars. We know the 12 stars would be the 12 zodiac, but let's just see what J.E. Surlock has to say about the symbolism of stars. This is a good book to have. I got it for about 10 books used off Amazon. Do what you can to amass your own library. It'll never serve you wrong, especially if you're a serious reader, study, research, things of that nature. All right, here we go. Star. As a light shining in the darkness, the star is a symbol of the spirit. Bailey has pointed out, however, that the star very rarely carries a single meaning. It nearly always alludes to multiplicity, in which case it stands for the forces of the spirit struggling against the forces of darkness, because stars shine bright in the darkness, right? This is a meaning which has been incorporated into emblematic art all over the world. For this reason, identification with the star is possible only to the chosen few. Jung recalls the Mithraic saying, "I am a star, which goes with thee and shines out of the depths." Now, individual stars are often seen in graphic symbolism. Their meaning frequently depends upon their shape, the number of points, the manner of their arrangement, and their color, if any. Let me show you this image as he shows up a star. So you see he's talking about the color, shape, how many points, et cetera, et cetera. The flaming star is a symbol of the mystic center of the forces of the universe and expansion. The five-pointed star is the most common. As far back as in the days of Egyptian hieroglyphics, it signified rising upwards towards the point of origin and formed part of such words as to bring up, to educate, to the teacher, etc. The inverted five-point star is a symbol of the infernal as used in black magic. Now that I totally disagree with. The inverted five-point star, which is that fifth point pointing down, if you ever have the chance or the time, Google the five-point star, which is a pentagram, and you'll notice that in the center of that pentagram is a pentagon. Pentagon is the shape of a house, bed. With that fifth point facing downward, that is not infernal. There's nothing black about it, no dark magic. That pentagon, that house in the center of the 5-pointed star, if the 5th point is downward, that house is correct. It is in proper order. It is right side up. However, if you flip that inverted pentagram with the point facing up, your house is upside down now. It is in disarray. So a lot of people associate the inverted star with witchcraft, all kind of bad stuff, but nothing could be further from the truth. Now, before I move on, I want to look up, we looked up star, let's look up crown. Crown. The essential meaning of the crown is derived from that of the head with which it is linked, unlike the hat, not in a utilitarian, but in a strictly emblematic manner. By reference to level symbolism, we may conclude that the crown does not merely surmount the top of the head and of the human being as a whole, but rises above it and therefore symbolizes in the broadest, deepest sense, the very idea of preeminence. That is why a superlatively successful achievement is spoken of as a crowning achievement. Hence, the crown is a visible sign of success, of crowning, whose significance reaches beyond the act to the person who performed it. At first, crowns were made out of limbs of various trees. That brings to mind the crown of thorns, right? What was that? At first, crowns are made out of limbs of various trees, hence they are still connected with the symbolism of trees in general, and of some trees in particular. Now, if you look at the Empress card, that's why I have her up here. If you look at the Empress card in the back, we see lots of trees. Now let's see what we get to in terms of the connection with trees. They were the attribute of the general and of some trees, or they were the attributes of the gods. And they also were once a funeral symbol. The metal crown, the diadem, and the crown of rays of light are symbols of light and of spiritual enlightenment. Now think about it. Her crown is composed of stars. So we know that her crown symbolizes enlightenment. The light they received from, let me go back. In some books of alchemy, there are illustrations showing the planetary spirits receiving their crown, that is, their light, from the hands of their king, that is, the sun. So we know that the planets were considered stars, wandering stars. So you can draw the connections from there. The light they received from him is not equal in grades of nobility, ranging from king down to the baron. Books on alchemy also stress the affirmative and sublimating sense of the crown. In Margarita Piritosa, the 6 base metals are first shown as slaves. Let me sit up, I'm slouching. Are shown as slaves with their uncovered heads bowed low towards the feet of the king, that is gold, because the symbol for the sun is a circle with a dot in it, and that's also the same symbol for gold. But after their transmutation, they are depicted wearing crowns on their head. This transmutation in a symbol of spiritual evolution, whose decisive characteristic is the victory of the higher principle over the base principle of the instincts. That is why Jung concludes that the radiant crown is the symbol par excellence of reaching the highest goal in evolution. For he who conquers himself, because this is a science of self, even though tarot cards are used to divine the futures of others, it is essentially it is the science of self. Let me go back. That is why Jung concludes that the radiant crown is a symbol par excellence of reaching the goal in evolution. For he who conquers himself wins the crown of eternal life. Secondary or more particular meanings sometimes arise from the shape or material of the crown, on occasion differing considerably from the basic meaning outlined above. The ancient crown of the Egyptian pharaohs is a typical example of unusually shaped crowns with exceptional meanings. Marquez Revere here points to the emblematic and near figurative source of its two basic components, a white and a red crown. The former is similar to the mitre-like bonnets worn in the East through the ages. The latter, according to de Rochemontour, is probably a pattern evolved from the adapted hieroglyphics. The coif is probably a glass, the curved stem of which represents vegetation, and the upright stem of the ideogram of the earth. M.E. Solidi sees the curved stem as a projection of the solar disk, a spiraling flame which fertilizes seeds. Now, what was also mentioned was the shield that she bears. Oh, let's look up the pearls, because around her neck is a string of pearls. Let's look up pearls. Pearl, one of the 8 common emblems of Chinese tradition. It symbolizes genius and obscurity. Doubtless after the rather less categorical observation of Lao Tse that hence the chosen one wears coarse garments, but in his breast he hides a precious stone. You know, Lao Tse was dropping lugs like that by allusion to the pearl hidden inside the oyster. Because of all this, psychoanalysis have recognized that the function of the pearl is to represent the mystic center and sublimation, seen here as a transfiguration of an infirmity or of some abnormality. The Muslims often have recourse to the pearl as a symbol of heaven, since their belief is that the blessed are enclosed in the pearl, each one with his auri. There is an obvious connection here with Plato's androgynous spherical man, who is both primordial and final. They also believe, and this confirms the parallel with the Platonic fire and water, it has also, again, that was weird. They also believe, and this confirms the parallel with Platonic spherical man, that the pearl is the product of conjunction of fire and water. It has been identified as the human soul. Pearls in large numbers take on a different character. Despite their high value, they come to be mere beads. When joined, they correspond to the symbol of the necklace. When scattered, they relate to the symbol of dismemberment. Like all things, they are dispersed. So let's go to necklace before we move on to the next symbol. Necklace, broadly speaking, the threaded bead necklace stands for the unifying of diversity. That ties it, that's the pearl necklace to me just now, that ties the Empress directly into the preceding card, which was the High Priestess, the La Papesse, the female Pope, because she's the uniting intelligence. That is, it represents an immediate state between the inherent disintegration of all multiplicity. So while the High Priestess represents duality, multiplicity, and things of that nature, the Empress, she represents the dissolving, the disintegration of multiplicity. I think that's critical. Regarded as a string, the necklace becomes a cosmic and social symbol of ties and bonds. Because it is usually worn on the neck or breast, it acquires a symbolic relation with those parts of the body and with the signs of the zodiac pertaining to them. So I'm not going to do it right now, but I guarantee you that if you look up which body parts are associated with which zodiac, we knew that the crown represents the zodiac because it had 12 stars. But if you see which zodiac are represented by which parts of the body that the necklace covers, which is the neck, the throat, and the breast or heart, we know that would be Taurus. And offhand, I can't recall which zodiac is represented by the heart. Most likely Venus. But, well, no, I won't say Venus, because Venus is the planetary attribute. But yeah. So it says here, since the neck has an astrological association with sex, the necklace also betokens an erotic link. We know that she's the great mother associated with bountifulness and fertility because of the corn. Now let's look up the corn meaning. Now I'll be honest, whenever I hear corn, a couple things come to mind: corn, wine, and oil, but also Osiris, because Osiris is associated with corn. Now let's look up Iricorn, an emblem of fertility and an attribute of the sun. It also symbolizes the idea of germination and growth, of the development of any feeble potentiality. The sheath has a symbolic significance which confirms that of the individual ear. It adds to the ideas of integration and control inherent in the symbolism of a bunch to that of fertility, or increase implicit in the single ear. Generally speaking, all sheaths, bunches, and sprays stand for psychic forces, which are integrated and directed to a proper purpose. So the mere fact that these psychic forces are arranged at her feet, she is in control of these. She commands them at will. And you mean to tell me he has cornucopia, but not corn? This is why I say you should have multiple books of correspondence. We'll look up the throne, then I want to move on to my tried and true J.C. Cooper Encyclopedia of Illustrated Symbols. Let's look up throne real quick. Like I said, I gave up one correspondence to Isis through the throne. Let's see what J.E. Cyrilot has to say about the throne. Excuse me. All right, throne. In Asiatic symbolism, the throne stands midway between the mountain and palace on the one hand and the headdress on the other. Headdress being the crown. For they are all rhythmic variants of one and the same morphological family that symbolize, or rather allude to, the center. They are also signs expressive of synthesis, stability, and unity. In the Egyptian system of hieroglyphs, the throne is a determinative sign embracing the concepts of support, exaltation, equilibrium, and security. Now, I like where it said here about the center of things. Remember, I just spoke on it maybe 5 minutes ago that the symbol for the sun is a circle with a dot in it. Symbol for gold is a circle with a dot in it. That is the centering. Gold being that high state of consciousness, of purity, of self-worth and self-value. So let's go to J.C. Cooper, Encyclopedia, an illustrated encyclopedia of traditional symbols, and we're going to look at the same. And I'm guarantee you he'll give up more information. The first one we're going to look at is, let's look up Empress. The emperor/empress is the incarnation of the sun god and is his delegate on earth. In China, the emperor, the son of heaven, symbolized the spiritual power of heaven. The empress, the earthly. So we see here, although indicative of representing sun, we see the yellow in the background. The empress represents earth, materiality. And that's why she's sitting, at her feet rest the ears of corn. So that does make sense. The empress, the earthly, supreme perfection and wisdom. Wisdom being Hokmah. His emblem was the 5-clawed dragon, and that of the Empress was the phoenix, birth, rebirth. The Emperor of Japan, the Mikado, claims descent from the sun goddess Amaterasu. Let's look up throne. I apologize for yawning. I only get a couple days off. I get no rest on those days off. Because I want to get this information in. I don't want to have any excuses not to do my own work, let alone to share it. Throne, the seat of authority, knowledge, and rule, both spiritual and temporal. The throne is raised on a dais as a world center between heaven and earth. It also symbolizes the miraculously born who are portrayed on thrones of special symbolism, such as the dragon throne, the lotus or the lion throne, the lap of the great mother. That's Isis. The throne implies a relationship between God and man, sovereign and subject. Buddhist, the diamond throne, the Vajrasana, situated at the foot of the tree of knowledge, is the cosmic center, the motionless point around which the world revolves, the place of illumination and enlightenment. Buddha is depicted sitting on the diamond, lotus, or lion throne. The empty throne represents Buddha, his features being too glorious to be portrayed. The throne of the law is the teaching of Buddha and achieving Buddhahood. Christian, episcopal and temporal dignity and rule, authority, jurisdiction. The throne of God is gold. The Virgin Mary is the throne of wisdom. See Hebrew. Below, Egyptian. The queen of heaven, Isis, is the seat and the throne, which is the lap of the great mother of the earth. The throne also depicts the divine temporal rule of the pharaoh. Hebrew, the throne of God revealed to Ezekiel is the lower throne as God's dwelling place or house on earth. In the temple, a cosmic center with the higher or heavenly throne of the New Jerusalem. It is supported by the 4 living creatures with the faces of the lion, ox, eagle, and man, the 4 elements. The tetramorphs. Hindu, the throne, like the temple, is based on the sacred square and its pairs of opposites. In the construction of the throne, these are represented by order and chaos, because here there's a disintegration of opposites. So the Empress, she removes that polarity, that duality of chaos and order, and brings it into being as one. Knowledge and ignorance, sovereignty and anarchy. The positive values are depicted by the legs as vertical, and the negative and the horizontal by the shafts. The diamond throne symbolism is common to Hinduism and Buddhism. Iranian, the Persian royal throne, is the peacock throne. Islamic, his throne was upon the water, Quran. The throne, which encompasses the world, is supported by 8 angels. Sumero-Semitic, both the authority and divine rule of the kings, and the lap of the great mother as the earth. So let's see, well, the symbology, I just want to tackle them in order. Oh, the 12, the stars, pearls, and net. So let's see. Let's go to stars. Oh, I did stars. No, I did. The presence of a divinity, supremacy, the eternal, the undying, the highest attainment, an angelic messenger of a God, hope as shining in darkness, the eyes of the night. Stars are attributes of all queens of heaven who are often crowned. The star is preeminently the symbol of Ishtar or Venus, and that is the connection to Isis, right? And the connection to the actual card, because we see the sigil, the symbol for Venus on her shield. Got to remember, we're going to look up shield after this. The star is preeminently the symbol of Ishtar or Venus as morning and evening star, Lucifer, light bearer, enlightenment. The pole star marks the pivotal point in the sky and is thus the gate of heaven at night. It is a symbol of constancy and is pointed out as such in the Hindu marriage rites. In Egypt, the pharaoh was, after death, identified with the pole star, the four-rayed star. Later, the Maltese cross is an aniconic form of Shamash as sun god and god of love and justice. The five-pointed star upwards is aspiration, light, the spiritual education. Downwards, it is evil, witchcraft, black magic. I will say this, because we pointed out the incongruity of calling the downward facing star evil. What I will point out is that, let's take Kali, for instance, the goddess Kali. She has a very frightening look. Her visage, everything about her says, I will eat you alive. I will, fuck you over. However, Kali is the archetypal mother image. She's loving, caring, protective. She provides things of that nature. So sometimes when you come across these things and you see it in more than one place, this is where you read in between the lines and you have to realize that it's not so much evil, but that it's powerful. Because first of all, evil doesn't exist. It's just a polarity to good, I guess. The opposite of evil would be good or righteousness. So it's just an extreme, because if you ask one person what's evil compared with another, you get two different answers. Some people will tell you going to McDonald's and not getting the strawberry jelly with my breakfast is evil. Another person might tell you that police shooting innocent people is evil. You can almost agree with either one. It's just degrees of severity. I would hate to go to McDonald's and get breakfast and not get a strawberry jelly, any more than I would definitely hate to see police brutality and somebody be killed. So I just want to point out that evil does not mean evil in the human polarized sense. Where was I? The six-pointed star depicts the creation and is also the seal of Solomon. Seal of Solomon is the two triangles, one facing upward, one facing downward. It gives you the 6 points, which is also the Merkaba. It is the combination of the masculine and feminine triangles and of fire and water. The 8-pointed star in the circle is in an aniconic form of Gula, consort of Shamash. Aztec, the morning star is the ascending spiritual masculine power of the sun, and the evening star, the descending terrestrial feminine power of the moon. Chinese, a star or stars with the sun and the moon depicts the spiritual wisdom of rulers. Christian, divine guidance and favor, the birth of Christ. The Virgin Mary as Queen of Heaven wears a crown of stars, also as Stella Maris. I have a thing for Stella Maris. She appears to me almost everywhere. The 12 stars are the 12 tribes of Israel. She has 12 stars around her head. 12 tribes of Israel correspond to 12 zodiac. And the 12 apostles, emblem of Saint Anastasia, Athanasia, Saint Athanasia, Bruno, Dominic, Hubert, Nicholas, Swidelbert. Egyptian, Isis is Queen of Heaven and wears a crown of stars. Oh, so I've been saying over and over Isis, and there we have, that's it for that. Greco-Roman, according to Hesiod, the stars are the drops of blood of Uranus. Venus is both the morning and evening star. Planetary gods are often depicted with a star on the forehead or overhead. Islamic divinity, supremacy. The star is depicted with the crescent. Maori, guidance to the triumph of good over evil. Mithraic, the all-seeing eyes of Mithra. Oceanic, stars are the children of the mother sun and father moon. One of the few places I see here, oceanic, where the sun is feminine and the moon is masculine. Sumero-Semitic, Ishtar is the morning and evening star. She and Astarte are frequently depicted as a star-crowned queen of heaven. Shield. Preservation, the sheltering, protecting feminine power. The shield is often an iconic representation of a divinity or hero. The figure of eight shield was an attribute of the Egyptian Neith and was also found in the Minoan civilizations. In Greece, the shield was an emblem of Ares and of Athene, together with the aegis as protection, which was worn while the shield was carried. The shield with the spear symbolized initiation of the Phiboi into adulthood. I'm not saying the Phiboi, Epheboi, an attribute of chastity personified. So she also represents potential. Now let's look up necklace. I'm not going to spend too much more time in the Encyclopedia of symbols, but just so you get a good idea of necklace. The necklace, chain, or collar indicates office and dignity, but also binds to the office. The necklace and chain also represent diversity and unity. Now, when I read that a necklace also represents binding, the zodiac is the necklace around all of our neck. We're all kind of bound to that wheel. That's why you hear become the 13th zodiac, become that middle point, that point within the circle that we're talking about. So there is an aspect, I would have to assume, there's an aspect of overcoming these being bound, being chained to this wheel of time, this royal road, so to speak. The beads or links bearing the multiplicity of manifestation, and the thread and connection, the non-manifest. The beads or links being the multiplicity. Remember, she disintegrates multiplicity. So here it is. She has the representation of multiplicity around her neck, but she dissolves that, most likely with her heart through love and through the use of the throat chakra, which is being vocal. So it says the beads or links being the multiplicity of manifestation, and the threads and connection, the non-manifest. So that's where she blurs that line and disintegrates the line between the multiplicity of manifestation and the connection of non-manifest, bringing together a spiritual and physical. The beads are also men, animals, and all living things depending on and being kept together by the divine power. I'm going to say kept together by the divine feminine power because that's who she is. Shall we proceed? So the next we're going to look up is, let's go into Barbara G. Walker's The Woman's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. I'm just curious as to whether she used the Empress. Which I hope she did. Actually, Barbara Walker has a great book on she didn't. White mirror. There's other stuff we can look up in here, but I'm not gonna do it. We could definitely look up Isis or Ishtar. Why not? HI. Let's look up Isis, Ishtar. When my uncle had that whistle, that was a cold whistle. When he did that whistle, you know he was contemplating and anything possible could go down. So I shade to Uncle Townsend. Here we have Ishtar, Babylonian star, the great goddess who appears in the Bible as Ashtoreth, Anath, Ashtoreth, or Esther, the queen of heaven. She was also the great whore described in Revelation 17:5 as Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. Another of her titles was the goddess Har, who called herself the compassionate prostitute. Men communed with her through the sexual rites of her harlot priestesses. Babylonian scriptures called Ishtar the light of the world, leader of hosts, opener of the womb, righteous, judge, lawgiver, goddess of goddesses, bestower of strength, framer of all decrees, lady of victory, forgiver of sins, etc. Much of the liturgical flattery addressed to the god in the Old Testament was plagiarized from Babylonian prayers to Ishtar. One example, who dost make the green herb to spring up? Mistress of mankind. Who has created everything? Who dost guide aright all creatures? Mother Ishtar. Whose power no God can approach. A prayer will I utter. May she do unto me what seems good unto her. O mistress, make me know my deed. Establish for me a place of rest. Absolve my sins. Lift up my face. So let's move on to the biblical. Oh no, that's still prayers to the Babylonian goddess. Yeah. And so then I'll read Isis. Egyptian scriptures said, in the beginning there was Isis, oldest of the old. She was the goddess from whom all becoming arose. As creatress, she gave birth to the sun when he rose upon this earth for the first time. Her title, giver of life, was applied also to the queen mother of Egypt. In her Roman mysteries, Isis was addressed as the one who is all. Lucius's hymn to her said, O thou holy and eternal Savior of the human race, thou bestowed a mother's tender affections on the misfortunes of unhappy mortals. Thou dispellest the storms of life and stretchest forth thy right hand of salvation, by which thou unravelest even the inextricably tangled web of fate, the web of Isis. Thou turnest the earth in its orb, thou givest light to the sun, stars to the sun. Thou rulest the world, thou treadest death underfoot. To thee the stars are responsive. By thee the seasons return, and the gods rejoice, and the elements are in subjection. I am too feeble to render the three sufficient praise. I am too feeble to render thee sufficient praise. Let me stop clowning. But a pious, though poor worshiper, I shall essay to do all within my power. Thy divine countenance and most holy deity, I shall guard and keep forever hidden in the secret places of my heart. Let's go here to the Empress. Let's see what she has to say in her other book, The Woman's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects. And we know she sits on a throne. But let me see if she speaks on the Empress in particular. You straight, bud?
Yeah, straight.
All right. Nothing directly on it. Wow, it's kind of sad. Let's go to throne. Furious T. Second, I'm gonna get up and grab me some water. Throne, let's see, 107, 358. 107. Throne. Now remember, throne is also an order of angels. Thrones have also been sacred objects dedicated to the use of selected persons who usually embody the divinity. This diagrammatic throne symbol meant support. Let me show you this too. The Egyptian hieroglyph for a throne is that, like the steps, that's also the symbol for Isis. It also appears on the head of the goddess Isis or Ma'at to indicate that she was the pharaoh's throne. In other words, his magisterium depended on his being seated in her lap. Pharaohs were often shown so, sitting on the lap of the goddess and protected by her long wings. The symbol Muat meant foundation of the throne and was also a variant of the goddess's name, meaning truth, justice, and judgment. Biblical scribes copied an Egyptian address to a king as connected with his goddess when they said justice and judgment or the foundation of thy throne. Let's look up something else. Let's see. She should have poem. All right, let's move on then. Now, we've been given a clue thus far as to the goddesses associated with this card, which so far was, let me go back to Phil Cooper's book. I believe he said Venus, Aphrodite. Said Venus. I'm pretty sure Aphrodite. So we're going to go here, look up Aphrodite first. This is Judica Illis's Encyclopedia of Spirits, the ultimate guide to the magic of fairies, genies, demons, ghosts, gods, and goddesses. Judica Illis, Judikailles. Because guess what, yo? She is the illest. This book gives you correspondences. It gives you tips on how to construct your altar, what offerings to make to these energies, and so much more. Aphrodite. I used to live in this book, literally. Me and my kids, when they were real little, like 4 or 5, we would read this while dinner was getting ready. I let them pick out ones and I'd read to them. Aphroditus. Here we go. Aphrodite, born from the foam, the golden one, far shining, she of the beautiful buttocks. She was caking. The shapeshifter, she who postpones old age, the dark one, the black one, the gravedigger, the queen, lady of the sea, the black queen. You know, I want to look up real quick. We call her the goddess of the buttocks. Well, I'm sure she's cakey. Let's see what the buttocks actually symbolizes. Buttocks. Watch me, tell me I'm disappointed in you, J.C. Cooper. I'm disappointed you didn't have anything on the buttocks. Let's go here and see if J.E. Surlot sunk to the depths to discuss the symbolic meaning of the buttocks. Scary berries. Oh, man. I bet you this book got it.
I'm gonna watch it for a little bit until you.
It's all good, baby.
Yeah.
You what? 16, man. I can't believe it. Congratulations, young man. How does it feel to be 16?
Yeah.
Okay, I give up on the butt research. I guess it's just not meant to be. Yeah, it was kind of funny. But according to Olympian myth, when Uranus, spirit of the sky, was castrated, his severed member, dripping with sperm and blood, dropped into the fertile sea. Aphrodite was born of this merger of sea and sky. She came ashore at Cyprus, carried to land on a large scallop shell. That's the image for me of Stella Maris. I always thought that image was Stella Maris, but that's actually Aphrodite. Fittingly for a sex goddess, the Greek word katis means vulva as well as scallop. I had just looked up the word katis. Oh, that was from Ophil's book, Kabbalah Magic. Aphrodite, because Dion Fortune uses the word katis, I believe, in conjunction with with this Sephira, with Netzach. She came ashore at Cyprus, carried on a large scallop shell, fittingly for a sex goddess. The Greek word Keteis, K-T-E-I-S, means vulva as well as scallop. Aphrodite, although now most associated with Greece, is originally a Semitic fertility/war spirit akin to Astarte or Ishtar. She may be native to Cyprus, gateway between the Mediterranean and Asia, Europe and Africa. She may originate in Syria or Assyria. Herodotus wrote that the Phoenicians brought her to Cyprus from Ascalon, now in Israel. Although the ancient Greeks adored Aphrodite, they were uncomfortable with the typical Near Eastern merger of sex, fertility, and war spirit, all bundled up in the form of a beautiful woman. Greeks like that boy love. In order to incorporate Aphrodite into the Olympic pantheon, the Greeks compartmentalized her, suppressing her warrior attributes. This is made explicit in the Iliad when she is ordered off the battlefield. Aphrodite's main function in Greece became love, romance, sex, and protection of mariners, seamen. Aphrodite's main function in Greece became love, romance, sex, and protection of mariners. By the end of the classical era, many were uncomfortable with her raw sexuality. She was re-envisioned as Aphrodite Urania, goddess of heavenly love. She got an upgrade, so to speak. Aphrodite can raise and placate winds. Not only does she have power over people, animals, and plants, she has power over spirits too, or at least most of the Greek pantheon. Exceptions are Artemis, Athena, and Hestia. And to the best of my knowledge, I think all of those are lunar deities. I'm not certain about Hestia, who are immune to her powers. And that would make sense. All the rest succumb to her allure. If you find yourself in trouble with them, appeal to Aphrodite for help. So this is what I like about Judith Ellis's book. She gives you working solutions, especially those who feel as though they're being harassed or hounded by spirits. She says here you can appeal to Aphrodite because all these other gods and goddesses bow down to her except for the three mentioned, Artemis, Athena, and Hestia. In terms of altar space, keep Artemis and Athena away from Aphrodite and do not petition them together. So again, she gives great tips on how to work with these energies. Be sure to fulfill all vows in a timely manner. So if you make promises to these energies, which you're really making promises to yourself, make sure you follow through in a timely fashion or within the time frame that you gave yourself. And if you're smart, you give no time frame at all. You just say that I will do it. And if you feel as though that petition or whatever was accepted, then you work at your own pace. If she loves you and demonstrates favor, you will be expected to offer consistent attention and gifts. Aphrodite usually demonstrates anger via animal attacks or bad luck in love. A lot of people make silent vows and promises in the sake of love, and when they find it, they forget where it came from, and that's probably where a lot of that bad luck comes from. You say you keep finding the wrong man, but you're constantly praying, send me the right man, but you're not following through with the correct closure to whatever ritual you enacted. And so she might punish you. That energy might just whip back around and bite you. Favorite people: lovers, practitioners of sacred sex and sex magic, sex workers, those involved with erotica. She is the matron of mariners and sailors, literally and on the seas of love and life. Manifestations: Aphrodite most commonly manifests as a mermaid or a blindingly beautiful woman who shines so bright that she dazzles the eyes. Roses bloom beneath her feet. Roses are another symbol of the pentagram, the 5-point star. Sorry, you guys. She will likely be accompanied by at least one of her sacred creatures, typically a disparate band of animals who wouldn't be expected to peaceably appear together to tip off that you are in the presence of the goddess. So the lion and the lamb, two creatures that normally wouldn't be in the presence of each other. She can, if she chooses, manifest in any of their forms too. Early iconography. Early statues portrayed her wearing a polos hat and or robes patterned with roses or stars. We see here the Empress, roses and stars she's begowned with. Attributes. Let me finish. She was venerated in the form of a conical stone at Paphos. She is sometimes depicted as a black statue. Vestiges of her veneration may survive in some black Madonnas. So this is really just a continuation of the High Priestess card, and we see it clearly. Attributes: scallop and cowrie shells, scallops and cowrie shells. We could also try that, I guess, to Mamie Waters and Yemaya as well. Pretty sure when she gives her correspondences, she doesn't. Does she list it? Yep, Mamie Waters. So yeah, that's there. Lakshmi as well. Colors: yellow, gold, copper, black. Sacred animal: Aphrodite is queen of beasts and loves all wildlife, but some are especially sacred to her: bear, bee, deer, dolphin, goat, leopard, lion, rabbit, toad, turtle, wolf. Element: water. Metal: copper. Mounts: Aphrodite rides a goat or a young male deer on land, a dolphin at sea, and a swan or goose in the air. Doves pull her chariot. Planet: Venus, the sun. All right, that's good information. I'm ready to get into this actual information on the tarot card, but it's always best to have a solid background. So when you do start reading, you'll have that good understanding. So let's see what in A.E. Waite's book, The Pictorial Key to the Tarot, let's see what he has to say about the Empress card. He says, the Empress, a stately figure seated, having rich vestments and royal aspect, as of a daughter of heaven and earth. We already covered that. Her diadem is of 12 stars gathered in a cluster. The symbol of Venus is on the shield which rests near her. A field of corn is ripening in front of her, and beyond there is a fall of water. The scepter which she bears is surmounted by the globe of the world. Again, that's a Lady Liberty symbol, right? Statue of Liberty. She is the inferior Garden of Eden, the earthly paradise, all that is symbolized by the visible house of man. She is not Regina Coeli, but she is still Refugium Peccatorum. Let me see what Regina Coeli. Let me see if that's in here. Going back to Judica Illis. I'm about to Google that, and I don't feel like Googling. Yeah, I won't Google. Remember that, Regina Coeli. I'm gonna read it to you. I'll come back with it for the next card. Regina Coeli, but she is still Refugium Peccatorum. Refugium Peccatorum, the fruitful mother of thousands. There are also certain aspects in which she has been correctly described as desire and the wings thereof, as the woman clothed with the sun, as Gloria Mundi, and the veil of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Oh, so the veil behind the High Priestess is actually, she is the veil. She is, let's see, the veil of Sanctum Sanctorum, but she is not, I may add, the soul that has attained wings. Unless, I don't understand that. I'm going to research that some more. Let's read it again. There are also certain aspects in which she has been correctly described as desire and the wings thereof, as the woman clothed with the sun, as Gloria Mundi and the veil of the Sanctum Sanctorum. But she is not, I may add, the soul that has attained wings. She's not ascended, she's earthly. That's what I'm gonna take it as. Unless all the symbolism is counted up another and unusual way. She is above all things, universal fecundity, and the outer sense of the world. This is obvious because there is no direct message which has been given to man like that which is born by woman, but she does not herself carry its interpretation. She is the message. In another order of ideas, the card of the Empress signifies the door or gate by which an entrance is obtained into this life. And that's where Daleth comes into, Daleth being the door. So she represents that gateway. We read it in one of these other books that represent the gateway. This is obvious because there is no direct message which has been given to man like that which is born by woman, but she does not herself carry its message. She is the symbol. No, carry its interpretation. She's the symbol. Its interpretation can only come through meditation and contemplation. In another order of ideas, the card of the Empress signifies the door or gate by which an entrance is obtained into this life, as into the garden of Venus, and then the way which leads out therefrom into that which is beyond is the secret known to the high priestess. It is communicated by her to the elect. Most old attributions of this card are completely wrong on the symbolism, as for example, its identification with the word, divine nature, and the triad, and so forth. Okay. What I want to get is the Godwin's Encyclopedia. Let's look up Daleth. Godwin's Cabalistic Encyclopedia. Daleth. Daleth, D. Fourth letter of the Hebrew alphabet, transliterated as D or DH, spelled out DLTH, door, 434. Corresponds to Venus, the 14th path between Hokmah and Binah, and the Tarot Trump 3, the Empress. For additional correspondence, see Noga. Up 434 first, you got me twisted. Oh, that was door, okay. I actually don't like this copy of my Godwin's Cabalistic Dictionary because there's a lot of things missing, like Noga, N-O-G-A-H, that'll give you a better understanding of this energetic archetype. So now I'm going to progress onward to the Cabalistic Tarot by Robert Wayne. And I believe this was on page 237. I'm going to go grab me some water. You know. Oh, here it is. Let me get some water and I'll be right back. Awesome. Fire up some more incense.
Okay.
Do it, bud. Fire up this. I got the 2 pieces. Hopefully they stay lit. What time is it? We've been getting down for
102.
102. We've been getting down for about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours. Hope I can wrap this up soon, bud. I'm gonna do a little chilling for the mom when we get back.
they're helping mom.
Yeah, they're helping out at the community center, Easter Hill. I don't know what they're doing. They're doing an outreach program today. And so we're just chilling, waiting on them to get back. Okay, let me get that water, and then we're gonna wrap this up.
Yes, please. Can we also take them to the pool too? Yeah, I'll take them to the pool. Thank you. Thank you.
Wrap this up, bud. Thank you. Got a couple more books to read. Buddy, hand me my torch over there. That lighter, the lighter. It's in front of my Black and Mild cigars right there. Walk forward, keep going. Hand me that, the purple thing, right there. Yep, that's it. My incense, the incense went out. Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
If I don't like these, I don't know. I don't want to say I don't like these incense. I've had them a long time. I think they're just old. They don't stay lit. I don't like that. All right, let's do it. Cabalistic Tarot by Robert Wang. The Path of Adelle, the Empress, the third key, path color, emerald green. That's the color of Venus. Related sound, F sharp, planet, Venus. Meaning door. Remember, we just read that the Empress represents a door into this world of materiality. Double letter, wisdom and folly. Those are the multiplicity, right? Esoteric title, the daughter of the mighty one. 32 paths of wisdom. The 14th path is the illuminating intelligence, and it is so called because it is the brilliant one, which is the founder of the concealed and fundamental ideas of holiness and of their stages of preparation. Something you want to say, what?
I was trying to see if my phone was turned off, but then I ended up sitting down and then.
Well, all right there. The path of the Empress connects Bina and Hokmah. As such, it is the meditating path of the supreme spiritual self. Where is my highlighter?
You're right there.
Got it. So this is the illuminated intelligence, bud, that you got inside of you, right? Let's see. Path of the Empress connects Hokmah and Bina. As such, it is the meditating path of the Supreme Self. It is the path of unity of the father and mother, the path on which their interaction occurs. In this regard, the Empress is called daughter of the mighty ones. As Hokmah has the potential to emanate the pure female, so Bina has the potential for the creation of all life forms. Thus, the weight deck and others show the Empress pregnant in a state of incubation and passivity, which is the result of the merging of energies of Hokmah and Bina. The Empress is the universal womb in which all manifestation is gestated. It is the transitional state of energy between the above and below, which has been called the gate of heaven. Daleth means door. It is the door which affects a transition from one into many. In fact, the key to this card is multiplicity. And I thought she disintegrates multiplicity, but we know from all the symbols, she embodies multiplicity. I guess you could say she unites the multiplicities. While the role of the high priestess is ideally, come on, bud. Come on, bud.
Oh, it's too loud.
Yeah, just need you to chill just a little bit. you do your YouTube, I'm not going to be talking in the background on you, okay? Unless you want me to. It's all good. It's all good. In fact, the key to this card is multiplicity. While the robe of the high priestess is ideally represented as simple and diaphanous, that of the empress is appropriately covered with all the jewels of creation. Closer look at mine. Of course, in this and in the 3 cards remaining, words are strictly metaphorical. In fact, at the level of the supernal triangle, the tarot pictures themselves unconsciously communicate a great deal more about the forces involved than could any words. And I can attest to that because since I began this, it has severely impacted my dreams in an awesome and great way. Yet, even there, we may be painfully aware of the inadequacies of our anthropomorphic symbolism in attempting to present a concept of pure fruition. To this end, one might offer an analogy having to do with Netzach, the most dense level of the Venus energy. As an exercise, the student should try to conceive of pure emotion. I can tell you now, what is the concept? How can you conceive pure emotion? To me, pure emotion would be all over the place. Pure emotion would be ready to experience, open to hurt, to heal, to laugh, to cry. Ooh. Just the thought of it, let alone meditate on it. That is the feeling which has no subject and no object, which is neither love nor hate, but which is the raw material of both. That may convey something of the Empress, who is the great mother of ideas, Mother Nature. So she is Meduneta. She is Meduneta. Almost every culture has some form of Earth Mother or Mother of the Gods, and in almost every case, this maternal goddess gives birth to an intermediate deity which directly rules the earth, such as Christ or Heru, Horus. Not infrequently also, God the Son appears through a virgin birth, although as Fraser observed, Fraser being the author of what's Fraser's book? So I have it. Okay, let's keep reading. Although, as Fraser observes, the idea of miraculous birth probably comes down to a period when man had not yet recognized that children are the result of sexual activity. So that's the simplest explanation of the virgin birth. At one time, people didn't realize that children came from sex. They just appeared. Storks brought it. So yeah, I can dig that. Where we at? Thus, the Virgin Mary, Christian version of God the Mother, may be related to the Empress after she is pregnant or has given birth to Christ. Before this, she is the high priestess. Oh. So she conceives, not through an act of sex, but she is the mother after giving birth. That's the corn, the fertility symbols that we see. She isn't pregnant, whereas the high priestess, she embodies virgin maiden and crone. She embodies all possibilities of virginity, maidenhood, or with child, or the possibility of conceiving child up to old age. Okay. It is important to bear in mind that the Great Mother is inextricably linked with the earth. For an incarnation, we function primarily from the perspective of earth. All that is natural to the formation of life on earth is the province of the universe, having to do with formalization and restriction. But beyond the idea of law of formalization, which we have repeatedly stressed in terms of the supernal female energy, there is another idea which must be stressed, that of love. The Empress, who establishes the law of macroprosopos, macroprosopos. I always hear people say it, I can't pronounce it myself, and gives birth to the microprosopos, is also Venus Aphrodite, goddess of love. In the 32 paths of wisdom, the left is called luminous intelligence or illuminating, as the path of Hokmah is called illuminating intelligence. The implication is that the brilliance of Hokmah illuminates all things as it passes through the doorway, which is the Empress. Luminous. But that reminds me of what Yoda said. Luminous beings are we, not this material matter. That's what Yoda said, bud.
Yoda is green, green and black.
And Yoda's green. Yoda's an aspect of Venus. Man, thank you for dropping that, bud. Thank you for dropping that. There you go, man. Luminous has the meaning of being filled with light as well as emitting light. Yet, in this context, it will be appreciated that light per se is referred to manifestation below the abyss. The illuminating qualities of Hokmah are the potential for the light which is emanated by Bina, and which is microprosopos, the lesser countenance. The Empress may aptly be called the mother of light. To pass through her on the path of return is to enter the supreme darkness. One may pass through a door in either direction, which is one of the points to the card. The dualities of the Empress doorway relate particularly to the Roman god Janus, looking both ways. Well, as always shown with two faces going in opposite directions. Janus was the god of doorways, Janua, janitor, keeper of the keys, who presided over communication, the passage of ideas. The Empress is in charge of ideas. Remember, he just said that she's the great mother of ideas. And who controlled the affairs of men. He was considered the god of gods, Janus Pater, who, like the Empress, oversaw creation. Ovid describes him as chaos, within which life was latent. So I would say this. I'm not going to do it, but if you're out there, it would be good to look up Janus to get a better understanding of the Empress card. I'm gonna do it on my own, but just so you know, Ovid described him as chaos. Remember, chaos actually means the gap, the absence of the abyss, within which was latent. Originally, Janus was also a solar deity, another parallel with the Empress, who is the mother of the sun. In fact, almost everything that can be said about Janus can be said about the Empress, despite the fact that the primary god form related to this path is Venus Aphrodite. In Greek mythology, Aphrodite rose naked from the foam of the sea, riding a sea scallop. Wherever she stepped onto land, flowers grew. Thus, the Empress can be described in terms of luxurious proliferation, each facet of nature being so compelling, so beautiful, if not hypnotic, that it is impossible to lose sight of the overview of the path. As Crowley warns, the student who is dazzled by any given manifestation may be led astray. Just real briefly, this is a problem that you find in meditation. You'll be dazzled by some shiny object, some image, something that appeals to some aspect of the ego. And you'll be tempted to stray away from your meditation. Now, I will say this, when you first start meditating, I would say that's okay. Follow it wherever it leads you, because you're just getting in the habit of meditating, of staying in that meditative state. So I would say at the beginning, maintain that childlike mindset, play, have fun, chase shiny objects, you know, all that good stuff. But once you reach a point, and you'll know when that point is, you'll know that it is important to hold one object and one object only in meditation. And you might focus on this for 20 minutes, an hour, or longer if you have time. So I definitely agree with that. Okay, it says, while Aphrodite is usually called goddess of love, she is also known as the goddess of desire, a title with special implications for students of the mysteries. Netzach is often called the center of desire, for to feel is to desire. But there is also a practical lesson in desire, in that desire is born with the most abstract principle of form. Desire, yeah, is usually formless. You just want it. It is often stated in Eastern literature that to lose all desire, i.e., to want nothing, is to become truly one with the universe. The coming to or leaving of desire is one aspect of the doorway, which is the left. The symbol of Venus encompasses all the Sephiroth on the tree of life. Another indication that the idea of love is the formative energy of the universe. Here, one should also consider the fact that the lower appearance of Venus is in a Sephira and is thus objective. Netzach is a part of the astral triangle of personality, but when the Venus energy appears in the highest realm of the tree of life, it is on a path, i.e., it is subjective. So the Sephira are objective, the paths are subjective. So by the Sephira, we get the overview, and by the individual path, we get the inner view. Turning to the card images, we find that the Golden Dawn Empress stresses ruling qualities more than do the Waite and Crowley designs. This is somewhat better symbolism. This is somewhat better symbolism than Waite's luxurious treatment, in that it allows for the fact that the Empress can destroy as well as create. In the Mathers card, the outer robe is the green of Netzach Venus, but inside is the dynamic and fiery red of Binah. Now we can see that here on her robe, we see red and green. So those two, that multiplicity, that dynamic, that dichotomy is represented. Okay. The red of B9 absolute. For the Empress, growth and destruction are concurrent activities. In our cells, for example, cells are constantly being born as old cells die. This is the process of growth, destruction, and renewal, or generator, operator, destroyer. Thus does the Empress function in us, the microcosm. To know the energies of this path of the left of the door is to understand and be able to manipulate the threefold process. This is a process which reconciles opposites, as is shown by the Ankh cross. A symbol of life combining male and female, held suggestively at the womb of the Empress. She has an Ankh cross? I guess so, suggestively at the womb, huh? Let's stop and take a look. I guess it's it's implied. In the other hand, she holds an orb of the sun, meaning the sun dominates the heavens. The orb and cross of the Marseille's Tarot means domination of the earth. That's the wand with the globe on it. The globe is yellow, so we can assume it's the sun, or, well, I believe it was Waite that said it was the globe of the earth. Like the Emperor, the Golden Dawn Empress sits before a veil, meaning that to pass beyond her is to cross into a completely new level of consciousness where her laws no longer apply. The veil points to a dramatic separation. No such separation is indicated in the Waite card, which emphasizes the flow of life. The Empress in her phase of munificent fruition. She is Mother Earth and Mother Venus, carrying the planetary sign on her dress and on her shield. The heart shape of the latter is a rather trite way of showing that she is the goddess of love. Now, when I first saw that shape of the shield, I thought it was a guitar pick. I'm pretty sure I can find something to make that fit, but that's what I thought. But it does have a roughly heart shape. Her pearls and the cypress trees in the background are also sacred to Venus, while the foreground wheat. Now here he's saying it's wheat. Others say it's corn. They're both most likely as symbols. They're both interchangeable. The wheat refers to the figure as Isis. On her head is a crown of 12 stars. The same zodiac found on the Fool is the crown of illuminating intelligence. Hokmah, spear of the zodiac. Yes, that makes perfect sense. She is also intended to be understood as the woman of revelation who is clothed with the sun. See, Freemanell will point out at this time that she represents the crescent moon, the mother and son, the true meaning of masonry. We like this one more time. I'm gonna have to get rid of this. Well, gotta find another incense shop, but because as it stands right now, I don't have anywhere to go find my incense unless I get them online. All right, let's get to it. She is also intended to be understood as a woman of revelation who is clothed with the sun. The real key to this card is the stream of crystalline, pure water flowing downward at the right. Her left, your right. This is the water from which Aphrodite is born. Okay. What is activated, i.e. churned into foam by the will of the magician. So we see the progression that ties it all in. This is a continual process whereby the pristine consciousness of the high priestess gives rise to the unconscious thought patterns of the Empress. In the microcosm, this means creative imagination, our ability to create mental forms. So mental forms, more to the point, thought forms are in the realm of Netsack and Venus, I guess that makes perfect sense as well. We create a reality by imagining it, by thinking it into being. All that we create in our mind becomes. This is one of the basic concepts of the mysteries, which is all too often misunderstood or approached with ridicule. Yeah. At any event, as one grows in spiritual power, the implications of responsibility for what one thinks are very profound. In this card, Crowley shows the Empress as the representative of alchemical salt, the inactive principle which is energized by alchemical sulfur to maintain the whirling equilibrium of the universe. Here, the figure is designed in the shape of an alchemical symbol, a circle with a line bisecting it horizontally. The twisted blue shapes represent flames and her birth from water. I want to look at the card for a second. See, I want to hear somebody talk about what she's sitting on. There's words or sigils inscribed on what she's sitting on.
Sigils are energy. So
sigils are energy. Go ahead, bud. What you want to say?
I said sigils are energy. They can get like energy.
Yeah.
Even if it's hot outside or.
Okay, let me get back to reading. Okay.
Okay.
States. What was I at? In the Empress are thought forms which become more dense as they are expressed into manifestation and are administered by the sun center of Tiferet. There is an important practical parallel here. God creates the universe continuously by thought. We do the same thing. We create a reality by imagining it, by thinking it into being. All that we create in our minds becomes. This is one of the basic precepts of the mysteries, which is all too often misunderstood or approached with ridicule. At any event, as one grows in spiritual power, the implications of responsibility for what one thinks are very profound. In his card, Crowley shows the Empress as representative of alchemical salt, the inactive principle, which is energized by alchemical sulfur to maintain the whirling equilibrium of the universe. Here, the figure is designed in the shape of the alchemical symbol, a circle with a line bisecting it horizontally. The twisted blue shapes represent flames and her birth from water. She holds a chalice-like lotus, a living form of the Holy Grail. She holds a chalice-like what?
Get off my phone.
All right, do that. She holds a chalice-like lotus, a living form of Holy Grail. At her waist is the zodiac. Above her are the birds of Venus, sparrow and dove. At her feet are the pelican who feeds her young with her own flesh, a common Christian symbolism of some interest in that the Great Mother gives birth to God the Son, who is self-sacrificed. A shield with the alchemical white eagle corresponds to the red eagle of the Emperor. To reiterate Crowley's alchemical references, the magician is Mercury, the Empress is salt, and the Emperor is sulfur. I stand corrected. I stand corrected. Not put that correction in my book. These attributions should be considered in terms of the attribution of the same symbols in the Golden Dawn documents. Kether is Mercury, Hokmah is salt, Binah is sulfur. All right, and now let's see what Manly P. Hall has to say about this image, this image. Okay, Manly P. Hall's in his book. Let me show you. This is the Secret Teachings of All Ages. He says the third numbered major trump is called L'Emperatrice, the Empress, and has been likened to the woman clothed with the sun, described in the Apocalypse. On this card, the winged figure of a woman seated on a throne. She doesn't have her wings. Not in my deck, not in the wake deck, but I can dig it. Supporting with her right hand a shield emblazoned with the phoenix, and holding in her left a scepter surmounted by an orb or trifoliate flower. Beneath her left foot is sometimes shown the crescent. Either the Empress is crowned or her head is surrounded by a diadem of stars, sometimes both. She is called Generation and represents the threefold spiritual world out of which proceeds the fourfold material world. To the graduate of the College of the Mysteries, she is the alma mater. Alma mater. Out of whose body the initiate has born again. In the pseudo-Egyptian tarot, the Empress is shown seated upon a cube filled with eyes, and a bird is balanced upon the forefinger of the other left hand. The upper part of her body is surrounded by a radiant golden nimbus, being emblematic of the power from which emanates the entire tangible universe. L'Emperatrice is frequently symbolized as pregnant. All right. Let's see what the Unfortunate has to say about NetSac. 221. Okay, title, Netzach, victory, Hebrew spelling, Nun, Zadi, Chet. Magical image, a beautiful naked woman. Situation tree at the foot of the pillar of mercy. Yet Saranic text, the seventh path is called the occult intelligence because it is the refulgent splendor of the intellectual virtues, which are perceived by the eyes of the intellect and the contemplation of the faith. Title given to Netzach, firmness, God name, Jehovah Zabaoth, the Lord of hosts. Archangel, Haniel, order of angels, Elohim, gods, mundane chakra, Noga, Venus, spiritual experience, vision of beauty, triumphant, virtue, unselfishness, vice, unchastity, lust, correspondence in the microcosm, loins, hips, and legs. Symbols, lamp and girdle, the robes. Tarot card, the four sevens, seven of wands, valor, seven of cups, illusory success, seven of swords, unstable effort, seven of pentacles, success unfulfilled. Color in absolute, amber. Color in Bria, emerald. Color in Yetzirah, bright yellow green. Color in Asaya, olive flecked with gold. Okay. Let's read a little bit of this, and then we're going to get to the good part. Netzach, the spear of Venus, is best understood by contrasting it with Hove, the spear of Mercury. These two representing force and form on a lower arc, as has already been seen. Netzach represents the instinct and emotions they give rise to, and Hove represents the concrete mind. In the macrocosm, they represent two levels of the process of concretion of force into form. In Netzach, force is still relatively free moving, being bound only into exceedingly fluidic and ever-shifting shapes, and in Hove, taking on for the first time definite and permanent form. Though of an exceedingly tenuous nature, in Netzach, a particular form of force represents itself as a type of beings. Sorry about that, something crossed my mind. In Netzach, force is relatively free moving, being bound only into exceedingly fluidic and ever-shifting shapes, and in Hove, taking on for the first time definite and permanent form, though of an exceedingly tenuous nature. In Netzach, a particular form of force represents itself as a type of beings, flowing backwards and forward over the boundaries of manifestation in an exceedingly elusive manner. Such beings have no individualized personalities, but are like the armies with banners that can be seen in the sunset clouds. In Hove, however, individualization into units has taken place, and there is continuity of existence. All mind is group mind in Netzach, but in Hove, the human mind had its beginnings. So now we'll get to this Paul Foster case. We'll close this door. We got a little outside action going on. I don't want that to interfere with this reading. Cat right there. Cat's catching the breeze. It's pretty hot out here in the bay, so I'm gonna let the cat enjoy his breeze. And so let's get to Paul Foster cases, the Tarot, a key to the wisdom of ages. Let's see what he has to say about the Empress. Daleth, D, value 4, originally signified the leaf of a door, that which admits or bars, but it also symbolizes, that through which something passes. On this account, some writers say Daleth represents the womb as the door of life. The door itself then suggests defense, protection, preservation, safekeeping, conservation, and related ideas. This is a clue to the mode of consciousness represented by Dalit. The door itself then suggests defense, protection, preservation, safekeeping, conservation, and related ideas. This is a clue to the mode of consciousness represented by Dalit. We shall find that this mode of consciousness has to do with personal safety, with self-preservation, with defense against double and trouble and disease, with the storage, conservation, and development of all that is useful to us. The ideas of passage suggested by the doorway brings to mind both ingress and egress, allowing things to come and go. This is where they said when you die here, you're born somewhere else. Motion into and out from. It also suggests transmission, diffusion, dissemination, separation, as when one thinks of a door as the means of leaving a house. And so division, apportionment, partition, administration. All these ideas are definitely connected with the mode of consciousness represented by Dalit. Observe also how the principle of antithesis already mentioned applies to the sequence of Hebrew letters as well as to the Tarot keys. Aleph is soft, opening breath, barely vocalized, and the letter name is associated with the nomadic life of herdsmen, following their cattle wherever pasturage is good. By contrast, Bet, house, implies a certain definiteness, a fixity of location, and the sound of the letter B is a sharply vocalized consonant expelling the breath through pursed lips. I'm sorry, that little weed whacker is bothering me. Come on, Taz. You gotta move, my guy. Sorry for that, buddy. That was too much for me. Excuse me, dear sir. It was loud out there, man. Okay. By contrast, Beth, the house, implies a certain definiteness and fixity of location. The sound of B is a sharp vocalized consonant expelling the breath through the pursed lips. Gimel, the third letter of the alphabet, is guttural in its hard pronunciation and dental in its soft utterance. The camel, moreover, is in contrast to Beth, the house, because the house is fixed, camels travel, because the ideas of commerce, travel, and communication with distant places. Now, when we consider Daleth, the door, we are brought back to the house again so that the letter has in it somewhat of the root significance of Beth, yet it also partakes in a measure of the ideas suggested by Gimel, since both departure and return are suggested by a doorway. That's why I like Paul Foster Case, because he says things that thus far no one has said. Venus is the planetary attribution to Dalit. She corresponds to the cow-headed Egyptian goddess Hathor, whose name in some old Latin manuscripts is occasionally spelled Ator, A-T-O-R. Venus presides over childbirth, is a mother goddess and patroness of love, beauty, and art. Astrologers say Venus rules the sense of touch and has much influence on the disposition, especially on the desired nature in our color scale. Venus is green, corresponding to the tone F sharp or G flat. Wisdom and folly are assigned by Kabbalists to Dalit. The mode of consciousness assigned to Dalit is subconsciousness, and subconscious responds to self-conscious interpretation. And suggestion determines whether our ideas, mental offspring, are wise or foolish. The occult meaning of Dalit indicate clearly that this letter corresponds to subconsciousness. The latter has no power of inductive reasoning, but its power of deduction is particularly perfect. Now, the very word deduction means leading away from. And deductive reasoning is separative because it splits up an original premise into an indefinite number of particular consequences or applications. Whether the conclusion so reached shall be wise or foolish depends entirely on the soundness of the initial premise. The latter is formulated by self-conscious observation and inductive reasoning. If the premise be accurate and profound, the subconscious subdivisions and elaborations of the initial seed thought will be on the side of wisdom. If the premise be inexact and superficial, the subconscious developments will be on the side of folly. East, the direction assigned to Daleth, is the doorway through which the sun enters the world at the beginning of a day. It is the place of the birth of light. Similarly, subconsciousness is the womb of those ideas which enlighten the world. In Hebrew, the noun for east is avr, pronounced R. And the word for light has the same spelling and practically the same pronunciation. Luminous intelligence. The Kabbalistic name for the phase of consciousness represented by Daleth requires little explanation. Subconsciousness enlightens us by its deduction from our observations and from our inductive reasoning. These deductions are not only illuminating, but they also make for our safety, self-preservation, and general welfare. Again, they enable us to share in the administration of our environment, assure us of our just portion of all good things, and enable us to find a way out of the limitations and bondage which imprison the unenlightened in cages built by their own ignorance and misunderstanding. Key 3's title, the Empress, means literally she who sets in order. She is the feminine ruling power. She is also the consort of the emperor, whose picture adorns Key 4 of the Tarot series. Her name contrasts with the high priestess, which indicates the cold virginity of a cloistered devotee of the god. In like manner, mythology contrasts the warm mother goddess Venus with Diana, the virgin goddess with the moon. The scene harks back to some of the symbolism of Key 1, for it is a rich, fertile garden. In the background are cypress trees sacred to Venus. Ripening wheat in the foreground is sacred to Isis Hathor, as well as Ceres, another mother goddess. For this picture, primarily representing Venus or Hathor, corresponds also to other representations of Mother Nature, Middle Nature. The stream and pool in the background represent the stream of consciousness. Their source is the flowing robe of the high priestess. The symbol of water falling into a pool is also a subtle intimation of the union of male and female modes of cosmic energy. For the stream is modified and directed by the magician, and the pool represents the accumulation of influences descending from the self-conscious level. This stream waters the garden and makes it fertile. The Empress is a matronly figure about to become mother. Her yellow hair is bound with a green wreath of myrtle. Sorry about that, just swallow of water. My last swallow. Myrtle, let's go back. The Empress is a matronly figure about to become a mother. Her yellow hair is bound by a green wreath of myrtle, like the hair of the fool. Hers symbolizes radiant energy, and her wreath has the same general meaning as that around the head of the fool. Myrtle, moreover, is a plant sacred to Venus. The idea here conveyed is that the growth and organization of the plant world is the work of cosmic energy operating at subconscious levels. Thus, people who know how to reach the subconsciousness in plants can do almost anything with them. Luther Burbank's work was an outstanding example. What is more, growing plants respond to curses and to blessings, and those who succeed best in growing flowers are lovers of the plants they care for. Like the woman in the Apocalypse, Revelations 12:1, the Empress wears a crown of 12 stars and has a crescent moon under her feet. Well, he's talking about his deck, the Foster Case, the Bota deck, the builders of the Atetium. Waite's deck, Rider Waite doesn't have the crescent at her foot. Only the High Priestess does. The stars are six-pointed or hexagrams to show that she has dominion over the laws of the macrocosm or great world. This crown of 12 stars, like the fool's girdle, also symbolizes the zodiac, the year, and time. The silver lunar crescent under the Empress's feet, well, you know what? She is sitting on a crescent. Shame on you, Mike. That concrete crescent. Yep. The silver lunar crescent under the Empress's feet indicates the fact that the subconscious activates, the fact that the subconscious activities she symbolizes have their basis in the primary powers of subconsciousness, which Tarot pictures in the High Priestess. Actually, there is no fundamental difference between the latter and the Empress, but the High Priestess symbolizes the virgin state of the cosmic subconsciousness as it is itself, whereas the Empress typifies the productive generating activities of the same subconsciousness. So here you see the progression of the fool, the wandering fool, to the magician, to the High Priestess, the magician who is gathering these forces, who is commanding them, the priestess who embodies the fertility, the possibilities of, and then we reach the Empress who is the generator. Let's read that again. Actually, there is no fundamental difference between the latter and the Empress, but the High Priestess symbolizes the virgin state of the cosmic subconsciousness as it is in itself, whereas the Empress typifies the productive generating activities of the same subconsciousness. After it has been impregnated by seed ideas originating at the self-conscious level represented by the magician. Besides the cypress trees, the myrtle, and the wheat ears, the 7 pearls around the Empress's neck are Venusian. So is the color green of her robes. In the rider pack, the robe is white, ornamented with the floral design in which the units are astrological symbols of Venus. That's what we see here on the screen, the red and the green. Excuse me. Again, she bears a heart-shaped shield on which is displayed a dove sacred to Venus and the symbol also of the Holy Spirit. The rider pack shows a shield emblazoned with the conventional symbol of the Venusian green. This heart-shaped shield This heart-shaped shield is of copper, the metal of Venus. Heart in practical occultism means subconsciousness. Okay, take it. According to Dr. Waite, the scepter which she bears is surmounted by the globe of this world. Thus, it implies dominance over the conditions of the physical plane. In our version, she carries a scepter in her left hand, and the globe is surmounted by a cross, so that the ornament on the head of the scepter is actually an inverted. So on the Bota deck, on the BOTA deck, Paul Foster Case has the globe. Let me read it again. So what he says that here, he says, in our version, she carries a scepter in her left hand and the globe surrounded by a cross, so that the ornament on the head of the scepter is actually an inverted symbol. Let's see how he explains that. Psychologically, the Empress represents the subconsciousness as the mother of ideas, the generatrix of mental images. The power by which she works is the power of subdividing seed ideas derived from self-consciousness. This is the power of deductive reasoning. The apparent multiplication of images is really the splitting up of the seed ideas into manifold presentations. This is symbolized by the multiplication of the original seed and the wheat ears at her feet. Oh, I didn't know wheat had ears, just like corn. That's why it's interchangeable. She is called the Empress because subconsciousness has control over all sequences of development in the material world. Occult science declares that this control extends even to the mineral kingdom, so that adepts in the direction of subconsciousness by suggestion are able to affect transformation even in the inorganic world by purely mental means. The particular mental function peculiar to subconsciousness is imagination based on memory. I like that. I like that a lot. Well, I'm going to wrap this up now. Hopefully you spend the rest of this week contemplating the Empress card. I would suggest that you find your own correspondences. Of course, catch a couple other YouTubes, see what their breakdown is. Definitely investigate all the symbols associated and mentioned with. If you don't have the books, download the PDFs. And even if you don't have a PDF, you can hit me up and I'll definitely send you what I have. My email is michaelkbale@yahoo.com, and I will definitely share what I have to help you build up your own mental reference and of course, your own library. As I said before, if you can't afford to buy the books, use the PDF. If you do have a PDF, I would suggest print it out. I printed out dozens of books myself, made them into books and made them my own. So there's really no excuse. It's just determined on what you want. So again, thank you for spending this time with me. I am the professor. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe, and follow. And next week, we'll be progressing on to the next tarot card, which is the Emperor. And so with that being said, I'm going to say peace.